If I asked you right now, how much money does it take to be rich in Canada? You'd probably throw out a number like $1 million, maybe 5 million, maybe you'd say 10 million. And here's the thing, almost every Canadian gets this wrong. Either they overestimate it and they feel like wealth is completely out of reach, or they underestimate it and they spend decades chasing a number that won't actually change their life. Today, I'm going to give you the real numbers, the exact income and net worth thresholds that put you in the top 10%, the top 5%, and the top 1% of all Canadians. These numbers come straight from Statistics Canada and the Parliamentary Budget Officer, and some of them are going to shock you. Let's start with where the average Canadian actually stands because you need a baseline before any of this makes sense. The median family net worth in Canada is $519,700. That means half of all Canadian families have less than that, and half have more. Now, the average household net worth is much higher, around $1.07 million as of late 2025. But that number gets pulled way up by the ultra wealthy. The median tells you where the typical family actually sits. And if your net worth is anywhere near $520,000, you are right in the middle of the pack. Now let's talk income first, because most people think of being rich as earning a high salary. To be in the top 10% of individual income earners in Canada, you need to make at least $125,942 per year. If you're a nurse with overtime, a mid-level tech worker, a trade supervisor, or a government employee at the right level, you might already be there. To hit the top 5%, you need $162,210 per year. At this level, you're earning about 2.5 times the median individual income, which sits around $68,000. You're doing very well. But here's the catch. At $162,000, you're also getting hit hard by taxes. Marginal rates at this level can exceed 45% depending on your province. So while your gross income looks impressive, your take-home tells a different story. And then there's the top 1%. To enter this group, you need a total income of at least $293,800 per year. The average income inside the top 1% is $606,000. So there's a huge spread even within that 1%. You've got the person earning $300,000 and the person earning $3 million, and they're technically in the same category. What's also interesting is that the top 1% earns about 11.5% of all income in Canada, but they pay roughly 24.4% of all income taxes. That's nearly a quarter of the entire tax bill for the country, paid by 1% of the people. Now here's something most people don't consider. The top 1% threshold changes dramatically depending on where you live. In British Columbia, the median income among the top 1% is $546,100. In Ontario, it's $534,800. In Alberta, it's $495,300. But in Prince Edward Island, it drops to $386,500. So being in the 1% in Toronto looks very different from being in the 1% in Charlottetown. Geography plays a bigger role in this than most Canadians realize. And there's a gender gap worth mentioning here too. Only about 25% of all top 1% tax filers in Canada are women. The median income for men in the top 1% is around $534,000, while for women it's approximately $450,400. But income alone doesn't make you rich. And this is where most people get confused. You can earn $300,000 a year and still be broke if you spend $310,000. Income is what flows in. Wealth is what stays. And the real measure of being rich in Canada is net worth, what you own minus what you owe. So let's look at the net worth thresholds. To be in the top 10% by net worth, your family needs approximately $840,000 in total net worth. That includes your home equity, your RRSP, your TFSA, any other investments, and any other assets minus all your debts. A lot of Canadians hit this number simply because they bought a house in Toronto or Vancouver 15 or 20 years ago. Their home doubled or tripled in value, and suddenly they're in the top 10% even though they don't feel rich at all. This is what's called house rich, cash poor. It's real on paper, but it doesn't always translate into financial freedom. To be in the top 5%, you need about $980,000 in family net worth. You're basically at the doorstep of being a millionaire. At this level, you likely own a home with significant equity, have a healthy retirement portfolio, and possibly some additional investments or a small business. But again, many families in this bracket are house rich and cash poor. Their net worth is technically high, but their monthly cash flow might be tight. And here's where it gets really interesting. To be in the top 1% by net worth, according to the Parliamentary Budget Officer's updated analysis, your family needs at least $7.4 million. And the average net worth among the top 1% is close to $9.7 million. These are families with diversified assets, business equity, large investment portfolios, real estate beyond their primary home, and often inherited wealth. The top 1% of families in Canada own roughly 24% of the entire country's net wealth. Meanwhile, the bottom 40% of Canadian households share only about 3% of total wealth. The top 20% alone hold 65.7% of everything, averaging $3.5 million per household. To put that in perspective, there are roughly 4.4 million families in Canada with a net worth above $1 million. But only about 108,000 families cross the $10 million mark. The jump from comfortable to truly wealthy is enormous, and most of that distance is invisible from the outside. Age plays a massive role in all of this, and it's something the headline numbers never tell you. If you're under 35, the median family net worth is just $159,100. Between 35 and 44, it jumps to $409,300. By 55 to 64, it peaks at $873,400. So if you're 28 years old comparing yourself to the national median of $520,000, you're measuring against a number that's heavily influenced by people who've had 30 more years to accumulate. Context matters. Where you are relative to your age group is a far more honest benchmark than comparing yourself to the entire population. And here's something encouraging. The youngest households, those under 35, actually grew their net worth at an above-average pace in 2025, mainly because of strong gains in financial assets. So if you're young and investing consistently, the data says you're already moving in the right direction. So what do these numbers really mean for you? Here's an honest take. Being in the top 10% by income, earning $126,000, doesn't feel rich in most major Canadian cities. After taxes, housing, childcare, groceries, and transportation, you're comfortable, but not exactly living a luxury lifestyle. And being in the top 10% by net worth at $840,000 might mean you're sitting in a house that's worth a lot, but you're still watching your spending every month. The real shift happens when your wealth starts generating income on its own, when your investments produce enough passive cash flow that your time becomes optional. And here's what I want you to take away. You don't need to be in the top 1% to build a life of financial freedom in Canada. If you can get your family net worth above $1 million, you're ahead of 95% of the country. If you can build income-producing assets, rental properties, dividend portfolios, a business that runs without you, then you've achieved something the numbers can't fully capture. The goal isn't to hit a number on a chart. The goal is to reach the point where money works for you instead of the other way around. That's what separates being statistically rich from being actually free. And that's a journey every single Canadian can start today, regardless of where they sit on the spectrum right now. If this video gave you a clearer picture of where you stand, subscribe to the channel and turn on notification so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.